Hi, in this lesson we're going to be talking about borders and showing you how to add them to your worksheets. So you could see these grid lines here. You might think these are your borders, but they're not. They're just grid lines to kind of show you the outlines of the cell, because if you were to print this spreadsheet, you could see that they're not on there, so they're not going to print. It's just going to be on the screen. And you could actually turn these off from the View menu, and then by unchecking grid lines if you don't want to see them at all. But most people like to leave them on because it makes it easier to work with. Okay, so to add borders, you need to first select the cells you want to add them to. So let's say we just wanted to add some standard cell borders to all of these guys here. Just draw a box around it, let go. And then you go up to the border section here. Whatever one is here, that's the one that will be used, because that'll be the last one that was used. So for example, if we just go left border, you'll see now this is the default because it was the last one used. But we want to do borders for everything, so we want to go to the All Borders section here. And now you can see we have borders on just the cells that we selected. So now if we go back to the print preview, you can see it looks like that. So there are many other border types, but one thing to keep in mind is when you apply one border, then apply another one, you might kind of overwrite your existing borders. Let me show you what I mean. Let's undo this. Let's say we want to have a bold border on the bottom of our headers there. So we click thick bottom border. Now you can see we have a thick border. So now let's say we decide to put borders around everything else. So we go back here and go all borders again. Now you can see our thick bottom border has been overwritten because we selected that same cell range and applied a different border style. So the way to do it is, for something like this, do this one first and then come back here and then overwrite these with the thick bottom border. Like that. So now you have the best of both worlds. All right, so then some of the other border types, left, right. If you want to clear the borders, you could select the cells first, like so, and then come here and do no border. And you could also do outside border. But sometimes it's hard to see because this is up against the letters and the numbers here, and then also against the page break. So if we go to the print preview, you can see that it is there. And if we did a different one, let's say in the middle here, you can see that we can see that one. Okay, so let's see what else we have. Double bottom border if you want a double line, just top and bottom, top and thick bottom, all kinds of different choices here. And if you want to draw your own border, so it's kind of like you could do it all in one shot here. So we'll go on draw border, and it makes this little pencil icon. Then we could do this. Let's say we want just this section here. So it's kind of like a way to select it and add the border all in one step instead of having to select it and pick the border type. Then you could draw a border grid. So let's say you're adding a new section here. Over here, we could go like this and make it however long or short we want. Just like that. Then as we expand our cells, the border is going to go with it. And then, of course, you could erase the border once you draw one. You could change the line colors. So pick a theme color, a standard color, or you can make your own color by doing that. Or also come in here and really making your own color by just kind of moving the mouse around, lightening and darkening it. But that's rarely done. You're probably just sticking with the black borders unless you're trying to make something fancy. Then you have your line styles. So if you just don't want just the regular plain line like that, you can do dotted lines, double lines, stick line, dashes, a little design, that type of thing. And then when you go to more borders, you have some additional options here. Same type of styles here and the color. So this is kind of like a place where you could do all these settings at once. So let's first select an area here. Okay, let's go back to more borders here. So now let's say we want to pick this fancy guy here. Let's say we want to do the top, bottom, left, and right. And let's say for the other lines, let's do a red for the insides here, like that. Then you could even do a little diagonal one there if you want. And click OK. Now you can see our outside borders are black and the inside ones are red with the kind of fancy line design there. All right, so let's undo that. All right, so to summarize, to use the borders, just select the range you want to add it to first. Pick your style, or you could draw one or draw a grid, or if you go to more borders, you could add the custom border. Just keep in mind if you use one and then you highlight some of the cells and apply a different one, it's going to overwrite it. So just kind of plan ahead if you're going to be doing two different kinds of borders in the same data range. Hi, in this lesson we're going to be talking about formatting your text. So we'll be talking about fonts and colors and size and some of the attributes you get assigned to your font. So for Excel, the default font is this one here, Calibri, and the default size is 11. So when you start typing something new, it's going to use that by default. But of course, you could change these fonts as needed, just like you can in a Word document. It works exactly the same. So let's say we want all of our column headers to be bold. We could either drag and highlight them all, or we could do this, hold down Control, do each individual cell. Let's say we wanted the space in here, but we really don't need that space, so we're going to get rid of that by deleting it. Or we could just click on this, and if we highlight the whole row and make this bold, then anything new we type in these empty cells will automatically be bold because it applies the bold format to this whole row going across till it ends, which it kind of never does. So for now, actually we'll do that. We'll do the whole row. So we'll make this bold by clicking on the B. We got bold, italicized, and underlined. And you could even do double underline. So make that bold. And now if you see, if we type something new here, it's automatically bold as well. Okay, let's say we wanted it to be a little bigger as well. Let's go ahead and just do this again, everything. And we could pick the size. Let's say we want to make this a 14, like so. And let's say we wanted our total amount to be bold as well. And if you remember our last lesson on the borders, we'll go ahead and add some borders while we're here. Actually, we'll add them to here. Let's do all borders. And then down here, we'll just do underline. We'll do a thick underline. So that's bottom border. And then we'll go back up here and change these to thick underline as well, bottom border. Okay, and let's say we wanted our amount due here to show up in red to make it stand up. We could do this. We could pick one of the standard colors here, or a theme color, or we could make our own color, but we're just going to pick one of the default reds here. Let's do the dark red. We'll make that bold as well. So now that stands out. And now let's say we wanted to make the column header font different. We didn't like this. Let's go ahead and highlight just the ones we want here. Of course, you could do the whole row again. And then you could pick from the drop down all these fonts. So this font list will vary depending on what fonts you have installed on your computer. So your operating system, Windows, Linux, Mac, will have fonts installed by default. And that's as you install other programs, many of them will install additional fonts. And of course, you could add your own fonts manually if you want. And you might notice this little arrow here. So these fonts are available, but they have to be downloaded to be used. So if you click on one of them, let's say we want to do this one here. Select to download. So downloaded it to your computer, and now it's in use. And now it's been applied there. And maybe we think that's too big now. We could either change the size here, or we could use these here, increase or decrease. So if you want to do kind of by steps, you could do that. And if we say, oh, maybe we don't like the bold now because it's a little too bubbly looking, we could take the bold off, like so. So later on, we'll be going into adjusting the cell width and that kind of thing just to kind of make it a little bit cleaner. But for now, we just wanted to show you how you could format your fonts by changing the font itself, the size, the attributes, bold, italics, underlined, and then also the color. So like I said, if you've used this in Word or most other programs, it all kind of works the same, especially the Microsoft Office 365 apps, PowerPoint, Publisher, Outlook, that type of thing. So if you're used to formatting your text in those apps, then this should be a no-brainer for you. Hi, in this lesson we're going to continue our discussion on formatting by talking about cell colors in Microsoft Excel. So you could add colors to your cells to kind of make things stand out more if you like. So it's pretty simple to do, and it's pretty much the same as adding a color to a font. So what you want to do is select the cells you want to add a color to, and then you have your colors here. The default's usually on yellow when you first start, but you can pick other colors, one of the theme colors, the standard colors, or more colors, or you could pick one of these here or create your own custom color by adjusting the sliders here and the section here. And you could also pick RGB, HSL, and you could even use a hex code if you want to put in an exact color code to match something else you're working on. So let's say I want to stick with the standard yellow here. Just simply click on the color, and now we have our cells filled in with that color. And if you want to get rid of it, just go to no fill. Don't go to white because that'll actually fill it with white. You want to go to no fill, and that'll take it away. And now you can see that no fill is the new default until you pick something else. Let's say like that. One thing to keep in mind is that, if you go too dark, you're going to kind of make it hard to see your text like that. But of course, you could go to your text now and say change that to white like so. So you could do combinations of cell colors and text colors to make things really stand out. And then once you apply your borders, you can really customize the way your sheets look. So once again, really simple process. Just select the cells you want, pick the color from one of the themes, the standard, or more colors, and then you'll have everything filled in nicely with the color of your choosing. Hi, in this lesson we're going to be talking about text alignment within Excel. So you could align your text to make things kind of look a little bit better when needed. You have a lot of the same icons here that you have in, let's say, Microsoft Word for text alignment. So you have your basics for left justify, center, right justify, and making some indents, and then you have some special ones up here. So you might have noticed that Excel will left justify text and right justify numbers. So you can see this doesn't work out too well. So maybe you want to have this kind of match up better. So what you could do is either right justify amount to move it over, or left justify the dollar amounts here to make it line up with amount. So whatever works better for you. Let's say we're going to highlight these, click on Align Left here, and now you can see everything lines up there. Then you could do the same for these, or if you want to even make everything center, you could highlight everything, hit the center button like that, whatever you like to do. And if you want to move things over in increments, you could click on a cell or multiple cells, and you could change the indent just to move it over a little bit at a time, rather than having to do something like spacebar or tab. Actually, tab will go over to the next cell there, so that's not an option. And then you also have something interesting like this one here, which is the orientation, where if you want to change the text to do something like that, or angled, rotated, going up, and so on. Then another nice feature are these options here. So you have top align, middle align, bottom align. So let's say we have a big row like this, and let's say we have a bunch of text in here that's filling up the whole cell, and we want to make this look a little better. You could click on this, and you could have it be in the center of the cell, or the top, or the bottom, which is the default. So that's another option for you. Okay, so that's basic alignment. So pretty much just pick the cells you want to apply it to, and of course you could do the whole column or row by clicking on the letter or number corresponding to it, and then just simply pick your option. And let's remember that undo is your friend if you don't like something. All right, so now we have a couple other options here for the wrapping text and merging, which you could also see from the sub-menu here. So we have the same options here if we go to the Format Cells dialog box here, and you could specify the indents. So we have the wrap text and shrink to fit and merge cells option as well. And then you also have directions. So what we're going to do, we're going to go to this worksheet here. So now we have this Bronze Club member payment details. You can see, even though it's taking multiple cells, it's only in one cell, because if I click on the next one, you'll see it's blank. So by clicking on here, this shows me this whole sentence here is in one cell. And let's say I want to stretch it across here to fit the whole thing. I can't do this because then I have that. So what you could do is merge it. So to do so, just click on the cell that has the data and then drag your mouse where you want it to go, how far you want it to expand. And then we have some options here: merge and center, merge across, merge cells or unmerge cells. So for this one, we want to merge and center, or we could do merge across. Let's try merge and center first. Now you can see that it merged it across and just made it one big cell. And if we were to do merge across, then it just merges it across, but it doesn't center it. And then just like merge cells kind of does the same thing, and unmerge cells. So merge and center is usually your best bet because it looks better centered, but you don't have to center it, of course. So we have that. And now down here, we have a cell with a big sentence in it, then another cell next to it with another sentence in it. So as you can see, since this cell has a lot of text, it's spilling over into the other cells, even though it's not technically in those cells, it's just looking like it because the column width is not fitting the cell there. So what you could do there is you could do a word wrap, which you could get to from here, wrap text, or from here, wrap text. And when you do that, it fills in the whole cell. So however big you make the cell, it's going to fit it in there. This is not a great example, but I just wanted to show you how it works. And then same here, we could see this one still stretches across there, but if we do the word wrap, then we have that like that. And then if we were to expand this row here, you could see it would fill it in, and then you could kind of shrink it down to kind of manipulate it as well. But just keep in mind, if you're in the same column as something else, it's going to affect that too. So this might be something you want to put over here, for example, so we could just drag it over there. Then we could fix this. And now we could adjust these as we need. If we want to shrink it down, we could do that. So as long as the wrap text option is applied, it'll fit into our cell for the most part, unless the cell is too small, obviously. And then we could adjust this one too if we want to make it look a little better. Okay, so we have our basic alignment options here, like you would use in any other program, left, right, center. And then we have the indenting if you want to just move left or right a little bit. And then, of course, we have the other options here, which I'll show you from this one. Let's say this is a big cell here. We want to maybe put it in the center for whatever reason. We could do that as well. And then up here we have our wrap text. And then here we have our merge options. All right, so going back here, there's also the shrink to fit option, but that's grayed out because we can't use it with the wrap text option. So if we uncheck this and then do shrink to fit, it's going to shrink that text down to make it fit in whatever size cell you have. So this might not come in handy, especially for something that long. Maybe for something really short, you can make it shrink it down a bit just to fit the cell. So if you're having trouble fitting something in a cell, but you don't want to resize the column or the row, you could use this option to kind of shrink it down just to make it fit. Or of course you could change the font size to make it fit as well. All right, so I would just play around with these options here, and then it should be pretty easy to figure out once you use it a few times. Hi, in this lesson we're going to be talking about resizing your rows and columns. So you've probably seen me resizing the rows and columns throughout this course, but we're just going to go into it in a little more detail and show you some tips you could use here. All right, so we have this one sheet here. Everything looks okay, but you can see that this one here, this column, you can't see the header all the way, so obviously you could hold the mouse to where it makes a double arrow, click and hold and drag, and then it'll straighten it out like that. And then another little trick you could use if you want to make everything fit within the width of a column, you could put your cursor here like you normally would and double click. Now you can see it shrinks it up to where it'll fit exactly with the longest thing in that column or in that row. Just like this one here, it needs to go a little longer to fit that, so if we double click, then it makes it match the longest thing. All right, then another thing you could do, so we could see how some of these are too short, it's cutting it off. This one's kind of long, this one's long. If you click here on the very top corner, it'll highlight everything. And then if you do the same thing where you just pick any one of these columns here and do the double click option, it'll adjust everything all at once. But just keep in mind, if you have everything selected, then it's going to, it might adjust some things that you don't want adjusted. So keep that in mind too. Now you might think you could just highlight the sections you want and do the same process, but I'll show you what happens with that. So now we have everything back to the way it was. So if we just highlight the cells we want this to apply to and just pick one of them, let's say this one, you could see it only does it for that one because we didn't have everything selected. So that's your option there. You have to select everything with this top left corner here. So now if we do it again, everything's straightened out here. All right, so now let's say we stretched out a row here and we want to make everything fit, but we don't know exactly how tall this row is. What you could do is right click on it, pick row height, and that'll tell you it's 26.25. And you could actually change this to something else. Let's say we want 25 even, and I'll adjust it. So now this one's 25. Let's say we want everything to match. We could select these and then select these by holding down Control. That bypasses this one. And then we could right click anywhere, row height, change it to 25. And now you can see it adjusts everything to match. And then the same for the column width. You could put in a custom amount there or make everything match as well. You're most likely not going to have columns matching because they're usually not going to be the same width compared to rows, but it is possible if you want to do it. All right, so that's the basics covering row and cell height and width. So once again, you could do it manually. You could click on the top left here and then double click anywhere you like, and it'll fix everything. And then you could also right click on a row or column, check the height, type in your own custom number, or find that number correlating to a row or column and then apply it to all the other rows or columns just so you can make everything look exactly the same. Hi, in this lesson we're going to be talking about cell styles and conditional formatting. So you could use cell styles as a quick way to format your cells rather than having to do it a little bit at a time. You could just highlight the area you want, go up to cell styles, and then pick something that you like here out of the selections. Here's some color changes like that. You could hover over it and get an idea of what it's going to look like. Change the headings to style. You have some accent styles, so each one gets a little darker here. You can see this comma file that it changes the negative number to parentheses. And if you want to take away the decimal point, currency style, percentage style, then you can click on new cell style and kind of create your own there. So this is just, like I said, a quick way to just add a little style to your cells here. I don't really like it. I like to do my own because these are not too exciting. All right, so that's cell styles. So now let's move over to conditional formatting. So let's highlight our amounts here. So we have highlight cell rules. So if we want greater than, we could pick this and put a value in here. So let's say anything greater than 100, it's going to show up like this, and you could change how it looks. Let's say I want light red fill instead of the default here, like so. So now anything over 100 is going to have that value. Now if I type in something new here to the section that has that formatting applied, you can see that's automatically red as well because it's over 100. Then you have other options such as less than or between, equal to, pretty self-explanatory. Text that contains, you could have that show up with a certain formatting if it contains a certain value. Duplicate values. So this comes in handy if you have a lot of data and you think you might have some duplicates, you could, highlight that section, apply this formatting to it, and then you'll easily see which values are duplicates. Then we have top and bottom rules. So the top 10 items. Actually, let me clear this other formatting here. All right, top 10 items. Let's say we want this to be different color, green. So now our top 10 values here are highlighted in green, as in highest number. Then you can do 10%, bottom 10, above average, below average, and then more rules, which we'll get to in a second. Okay, and then we have data bars, which kind of gives you an idea of what's going on in your range. It's more of a visual thing, so you can see the higher the number, the bigger the bar, and then the red values for negative go off to the left. And then you could use other colors, and if you want something more solid, you could do that as well. All right, then color scales. This works in a similar way. So for this design, higher the number, more red it's going to be, and the lower the number, more green it's going to be. And of course, this one's kind of the opposite. So you get the idea there. Then you have icon sets. So if you want to use something like arrows, so the higher the numbers have the upward pointing green arrow, lower the numbers have the downward pointing red arrow, and the middle numbers are yellow. You can do the shapes, kind of like traffic lights, indicators, even a star rating, and that type of thing. Okay, so now let's create a new custom rule here. So you have several rule types. Format all cells based on their values. Format only cells that contain a certain value. So let's choose this one. So the cell value, you could pick other categories here. Dates occurring, blanks, no blanks. We'll pick cell value between 100 and 200. And we'll click on Format here, and we'll change the fill to green. And you could change the border and font and number as well if you want. We're just going to make it simple. It's just the green. Okay, so we have, for this range here we selected, if a cell value is between 100 and 200, we want to make it green, so we'll click OK. And then you can see there's our values there. And if we go to Manage Rules, you can see we have our rule there. And this is showing the rule for the current selection. And then you can show it for the worksheet or other sheets as well. Then you could edit the rule if you want to change the color or some other formatting value. Then you could delete it or duplicate it, change the range it applies to, stop it if it's true, and that type of thing. And then, of course, you could make a new one from here as well, and then use one of these other rule types for your new rule. So let's say we don't want this anymore. We could just delete the rule, click OK, and now it removes it from our data range there. So as you can see, using styles and conditional formats is not that difficult. Like I said, for styles, they're not too exciting, not too useful. I'd rather use conditional formatting because then you could really customize it based on what you need. And then especially if you go to the new rule, then you could really set up your custom formatting from here. All right, so I would just pick a data set and just apply some of these rules, create your own just to get an idea of how it works. Because once you do this a few times, you'll see how easy it is to really use. Hi, in this lesson we're going to be talking about data formatting. So we've had some lessons on how to format things like your fonts and your colors and your conditional formatting and that type of thing. But now we need to focus on the data itself. So you can see this column here is for dollar amounts, but there are no dollar signs, and that's because either the dollar sign wasn't typed in manually with each one of these, or the cells aren't formatted for currency. So that's an easy fix. So all we have to do is highlight the cells we want to change, right-click on any one of them, click on Format Cells, and now we have this number category here. We've seen these other alignment and font and border and fill sections, and even protection. All right, so now, since this is a dollar value here, we want to go to currency. And you can see there's a sample here. It's going to put a dollar sign in front of it. You could change this to other currencies if you want. And now for decimal places, you could have 2 or 1 or more if you want to kind of round it up or down. We'll leave it at 2. And then for negative numbers, you could have them displayed as red or with parentheses or both. So we'll just do ours as red. And we click OK. Now you can see it added the dollar sign and it made the negative numbers in red. So pretty simple to fix. And then of course you could do the same for your date. If you don't like this format, you could right click, format cells. See, you already knew it was a date format, so you could change it to one of these other formats if you like. Let's say you wanted the actual month in there, you could do that. And now it displays like that. And then you also notice too, let's just right click anywhere, format cells, that you have a general category with no formatting. You have a number category where you could kind of do the same thing as currency with the negative numbers in red and decimal places. We saw currency. There's accounting. If you want to use accounting symbols, similar to currency. Date we saw. Time, for cells with time in it. You could change the formatting here and even change your locale. Percentage for decimal places. Fractions. Scientific. And there's text. So text format cells are treated as text even when there is a number in the cell. So if you have some cells that have numbers in them and you notice that Excel is applying a format to it, let's say they kind of look like a date, and every time you type in a number, Excel is changing it to a date format, you could come here and just change that cell format to text, then it'll leave it alone instead of trying to change it to make it look like a date. Then you have your special sections here for zip code and phone number, social security number, and then there's a bunch of custom choices as well. So you can see it's pretty easy to change these formatting types in Excel. And if you want to apply it to an entire column or row, let's say we're going to be adding more dollar amounts later, we could do this, right click anywhere we want, format cells, change it to currency, and then next time we add something, it'll automatically have the currency formatting. We don't have to go back and change it manually each time. So that's a nice little trick you could use to save yourself some time. Hi, in this lesson we're going to show you how to hide and unhide rows and columns. So let's say you have a worksheet and you want to maybe print it, but you don't want a certain column to be shown. So rather than deleting it and having to recreate it or save it and reopen it with the column back there, you could simply hide it. So let's say we want this send a bill column to be hidden. All you need to do is select the whole thing, not the range. You have to select the whole column. Same thing applies to a row. And then you could right click on it, hide, and now you can see if you look very closely there's kind of a little double line here on the gray between the E and the G, and then you could also see how F is missing, so that's telling you that there's a column hidden. So it's not necessarily going to help you security wise, but it's going to help you just to clean things up for printing, or if you're showing somebody something on maybe a online meeting and you want to keep something hidden. And then the easiest way to unhide it is to just select both columns or rows in between on both sides of the hidden column, and then right click anywhere and choose unhide. So same thing for the rows. So we'll hide number 9 here. And you can see we have 8 to 10. So we just do that, unhide, and now it's back. So once again, super easy to do. Comes in handy for printing or demonstration purposes. So you could hide as many rows or columns as you like, and then just bring them back when you're done. Hi, in this lesson we're going to be talking about the freeze panes feature in Excel. So this comes in handy if you want to keep a certain range of data on the screen while you scroll to check out other data. It's most commonly used for the column header, but you could use it for other things as well. So let's check out the 3 features here. So we have the freeze panes. So this keeps rows and columns visible while the rest of the worksheet scrolls based on the current selection. Then you have freeze top row and freeze first column. All right, so let's try the freeze panes section first. So what I've noticed, at least for me, or maybe it's just this version of Excel here, I have to select one row and one column extra before I click on freeze panes. Now you can see as I scroll, the selected area stays, and if I scroll this way, the selected area stays. So that way you could have a bunch of data down below or off to the side here, and then if you scroll to look at it, you could always reference this data here. Okay, so let's undo that. All right, so now let's do the freeze top row section here. Keep the top row visible while scrolling through the rest of the worksheet. So now you can see that's always going to be on the top. So if you have a lot of data and you want to know what the category is for each one of your columns without having to scroll up to look at it, you could just keep it locked like that. And then the freeze first column will work the same way. It'll just freeze the first column over here. So when you're done, if you want to take it off, just come back here and click on Unfreeze Panes. And now everything's back to normal. So once again, you could freeze your selection after you make the selection with the freeze panes, or just freeze the top row or the first column. And then when you're done, just come back and click on Unfreeze Panes and you'll be back to normal.